can hear on the airwaves. It's that WBOK, 12:30 a.m.
From the campus of Xavier University, WBOK Go and Equity Media Station.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is blasting President Trump's budget plan, saying it slashes health care and food aid to fund billionaire tax breaks. He also warned Trump's tariffs are a massive tax hike that will hurt working families. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is announcing $500,000 in grants to 5 small businesses at the parks at Walter Reed. The awards are part of D.C.'s effort to support growth through the Walter Reed Retail Opportunity Grant. Former U.S. Senator Carol Moseley Braun has been named chair of the DuSable Black History Museum Board in Illinois. She's served since 2018, and the museum sits near the future Obama Presidential Center. And the National Park Service has restored its Underground Railroad webpage after unapproved changes removed Harriet Tubman's photo and softened references to slavery. Officials say the original content is now back in place. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Filko and Carey Grant.
All right, good evening, New Orleans.
Good evening.
Hope everybody is doing well. I'm Arnie Filko.
And I'm Carey Grant.
And we are in the WBOK beautiful studios here on the campus of Xavier University. Yes. What a unbelievable day weather-wise.
Right.
God, it's just
beautiful
was Sunday and yesterday were a little cold, a lot of rain, but today made up for it. An incredible day.
I had some friends who just moved in from California. I hope they don't think this is the regular weather that we're gonna have.
Yeah, exactly.
Just want them to know this is something different.
This is April the 8th, so we have about three more weeks maybe of,
right.
of
before
weather.
90-degree weather.
Oh,
I used to live in L.A., so I understand the shock.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing too I want to say about that is the French Quarter Festival. I'm predicting record crowds because take advantage of this one because
the weather's
going to be fabulous this weekend. So yes, absolutely.
And then 2 weeks later, we'll be wearing shrimp boots and around the
fighting through a rainstorm in 90-degree weather,
mud over at the fairgrounds. And but even in mud and even in shrimp boat boots, there's nothing like Jazz Fest other than French Quarter Fest, yes. Which is great.
Yes.
Looking forward to this weekend, and I saw the. Kind of the notices about the French Quarter. I mean, they're pretty much shutting it down.
Yeah.
If anybody is going there, and I hope a lot of people are going there, probably not a good idea to drive. Take public transportation,
cabs,
Uber, Lyft,
whatever,
cabs, whatever.
Yeah. And people need to understand there's something I don't think people think about with that. Rideshare now, you can set aside rides, in advance. So, that's a real good thing for an event like this. Leaving from your home or whatever, and going back, go to the hotels because they have people that come there and pick people up. Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways of doing this.
I wonder if there's any shuttles. At one time, there were shuttles from City Park.
Yeah, they used to be shuttles. I don't think they do that anymore. But
haven't seen that. But in any event, it'll be a great weekend. The weather's supposed to be nice. The musical groups performing are phenomenal.
Yes.
Food is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And you just can't beat it. I mean, this is, I was listening to Gerard's show before us, and he posed a really great question. Maybe we'll continue it a little bit, which is, why do people stay in New Orleans? And, one reason is this coming weekend.
Absolutely.
I mean, events like this over and over and over just make this such a special place.
Week after week, all kinds of different things. And I think that people get to see the culture, feel the culture, be a part of the culture. And as you said, there's 333 acts at this festival.
Is that right?
So, I mean,
wow.
So there'll be even more stuff at the Jazz Festival.
Of every
genre.
Yeah.
You can go see the traditionalists like Irma Thomas. You can see new people, And some people said the one thing that they love is they can just dance in the street. And I think that says a lot about New Orleans.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be a wonderful weekend. Our producer has made a special request. He wants us to talk about the Saints draft and Shedeur Sanders. We're going to do that in a minute.
Okay.
But we got a caller on the line, Mr. Elmore. How are you tonight?
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure. How you doing, man?
Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Look, I'd like to make a comment. You look at what Trump is doing, and what's scary about what he's doing when you the trade and the tariffs.
Yeah.
The enemies that you're making, it's going to make it hard for whoever becomes the president to mend those wounds of what he did. That's what's scary about it.
Yes.
You know. Another thing that's scary about it. Now, I don't know if you can remember, Ernie, because I'm going way back, because don't laugh, I'm a few years older than you. Don't laugh. I'm a few years older than you, Ernie. But I remember, if you remember the big stink they had with the carnival organizations, and
Yes.
people was noticing that we wasn't buying American-made tractors, was buying Russian tractors. Remember that,
Yeah.
Carnival?
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Remember
Yes.
the big stink they made over that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my point. You can't have it both ways. Corporate America decided, and I'm a New Orleanian, I've been all over the world, but I remember this. You remember American Standard?
Yes.
Okay, remember when they burned down on Franklin Avenue?
Yes.
Okay, I had relatives that worked there, and to understand they got the union stewards and all, they said, listen, American Standard told the people, listen, we will rebuild bigger and better. And what did they do? They go to Mexico.
Right. Right.
You see, so what I'm saying, we need to understand how corporate America thinks. And they made it corporate America, but they made the issue say, well, you know, the products that you buy will be cheaper, which it wasn't. But they went to all these other countries. You know, Ernie, it's about a dollar. It was cheaper than paying union pay scale wages. I mean, let's be real about that. And
Yes.
I don't think. I think leadership have told American people the truth, but we have to be honest with that. That's the reason why most of those corporate. That's why we don't produce everything we buy. I bought a shirt, and you're glad to wear this. I'm a Vietnam vet, so I almost went berserk. I almost went berserk when my wife bought me a shirt from Vietnam. Ernie, almost went berserk. But you know, Ernie, after I thought about it, I said, you know what, they almost get a life now. That Vietnam is over. You're an older man now. Let's let bygones be bygones. These people have a right to live. We have a right to trade. If Vietnam wants to trade with us, hey man, let them trade with us. Let's trade with everybody, you know. But it's you know, don't get me wrong. And it took me a little while to stomach it, you know.
Well, I look. This is my feeling on this: is that we're living in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Right. I mean, I think if you go, you know, you want to go back 80 years in a different world and how trade was handled, okay, but we're living in such a global society today. And first of all, some of the stuff that we're talking about tariffs, it's, you know, we're well beyond that. We're talking AI, we're talking technology,
robotics.
We're talking exactly. I mean, the reality is what President Trump has done is, in my opinion, has set this country back years and years. Okay, now he could prove us wrong. I'm not, you know, there are economists that agree with him. But I got to tell you, I'm sitting here today as just one individual, a regular guy living in New Orleans. My 401k is gone down about 30%.
Yes.
And, you know, for most people, hopefully they don't have to draw on it, so it's just a paper loss at this point. But for those that are drawing in retirement, living on those, I mean, there is real pain being caused to those people. That's number one. Number two, we haven't yet started to see the impact of the cost of goods.
Of the tariffs, right.
You know, I saw a story from a grocery store today, and they went from bananas to avocados to shrimp to coffee. And the projection is within another week, you know, you're going to see the price of coffee double because we import most of that either from Ethiopia or from South America. You're going to see shrimp doing some of that. Shrimp is a little different because that may actually help our Louisiana shrimpers. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
But this is crazy. I got to tell you. And Mr. Elmore, I was watching the stock market today because people thought today would be a key day. It started 1,000 points ahead.
Right.
And then noon came.
And it went down.
And it went down because the tariffs on China kicked in and went into effect.
Right.
So now we're charging them, what,
104%. 104%. Which is more than 100%.
And you know what? The stock market ended up like 300 points down.
Right.
So this is insane. And we said this last week. Where's our Republican leadership? You know, these are your constituents just as well as Democratic constituents. They're hurting. They're in pain. And if we keep going down every day, not only are we going to be in a recession, but we're going to be worse as a country. So I'm with you, my friend.
Well, look, I was laughing, but I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing to keep from crying. Don't laugh. But the thing that bothers me is that I'm just hoping, Ernie, some of the Republicans in the Republican Party have some type of understanding. I would say civility, if you will, and understand when is this nightmare gonna stop? You know, sometimes you have to be realistic. You know, I love my country. I love our party system. It's not as good as it used to be. But I just hope some people in other opposite party, Republicans, have some kind of understanding or common sense, if you will, and say, when is enough going to be enough? Because I can see this country, we're going to lose all our credibility.
Yeah.
Whatever our people fought hard for, we're going to lose that respect. We're going to lose Europe ain't going to trust us anymore. Don't talk about Japan and Korea. So we're on a dangerous path, my friend. I just hope and say that God will bless us, love, that we'll see a better way, you know.
I hear you. Well, keep listening, Mr. Elmore. I'm gonna move us to another topic here. Is probably gonna discuss you just as much. So keep listening.
I sure will. Look, don't worry. I'll call you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Have a great evening,
buddy.
Thank you.
All right, fine.
I'm trying to learn a system. All right, Carey. Sir. That was a good discussion, and again, I want to tell you another one that two things I'm going to tell you. There were two stories of deportations.
Yes.
Over the last several days. One was a man from El Salvador.
Yes.
Who was in our country, was seeking asylum. Okay, before his case could be heard, he was on the plane to El Salvador in the notorious prison we've heard about, seen.
Yes.
And he had been on a list that said you could not legally deport him to El Salvador.
Right.
Because he'd be killed. That's why he was leaving.
Right. He was seeking asylum for a reason.
Yeah, and physical harm.
Yes.
Okay, that was one. The other was a gay makeup artist. I don't know if you saw this story.
No,
from Venezuela, who had a tattoo in his arm, with a crown.
Yeah.
And the reason for the crown was in his hometown. It was symbolic of a religious holiday that they did.
Yeah.
Had nothing
to do with
gangs.
Right.
Was not part of the Venezuelan gang. They brought him again to this prison. His lawyer, I almost started crying listening to his lawyer and his mom. Carey, and then there were orders, by district courts to bring these people back, to get them out of jail. And the Supreme Court ruled, no, we're not going to, we're not going to intervene in that. They're now in El Salvador. Only El Salvador has jurisdiction.
Right.
What in the world is our country, too, where the situations like this can occur?
This is really crazy because, as you said, now the Supreme Court has weighed in a very strange way and said that some of these people, because of the 1700s law with the Alien and Sedition Act, that's what they're doing. And as you just said, these people aren't seditious in any way to our country that I can see. That means that you're causing some kind of havoc in the country, and you need to be sent from the country because you shouldn't be here. That's a wartime act. We're not at war with these countries. We're not at war with ourselves, with anybody right now. So it's what you said, Arnie. It's just the slippery slope of who do they come for next? How do they get away with it? They asked the Attorney General today. She ran out of the room when they asked her, how many people were being held, being sent away, whatever, who didn't have criminal charges, who refused to answer, because I think it's a lot of people, as the people you just mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can make mistakes in proceedings
Absolutely.
like this.
Yes.
There can be misidentification. There could be a lot of things that come up. But when you make a mistake, acknowledge it. These are human beings.
Right.
Okay? I mean, you do not put somebody on a plane in the middle of a night, bound them, and bring them to literally one of the worst places on earth.
Yeah.
Okay? And
and each and every one of those people, like the father who was mistaken, and they've had a case about this guy too. Every one of those people, as you said, you're going to one of the worst prisons in the world, which is like the old gulags in Russia.
yeah.
And some of these people, I don't know if even our efforts will be timely enough to get them out before they're harmed. I mean, they've gone into a system where, like you said, some of them were escaping that system. Some of them were enemies of the state to begin with. So you think the state's going to care if anything happens to them in these horrible jails? I mean, it's just, it's terrible.
No.
It's not truly, once again, not the American way. And I don't understand what all this is about, because everything they talked about was deporting criminals and these people who were, these real hardcore people or whatever. That in itself is a legal challenge too. But these people, some of these people are totally innocent from every indication. They're totally innocent.
Yeah, and I think our government knows that. I mean, look, this gentleman from Venezuela.
Yeah.
I mean, his mother was literally crying because he's a gay man being put into an El Salvador prison. What do you think is going to happen to this guy?
Exactly.
Okay, and I just, I want Americans to understand what is going on in this country right now. It is not right. I was at the rally, hands-off rally on Saturday. And by the way, wonderful attendance. I mean, they estimated, I think, 3,000 people in Lafayette Square, and they had rallies around Louisiana, and they had rallies all over the country. From
some
big
of
cities,
which were huge.
Huge. And, the people that were standing up with signs, were protesting against all kinds of things. But the one commonality in everything was an attack on democracy.
Yeah.
This is not, I'm sorry that this is not, Argentina in the 80s with dirty wars where they, kidnapped people off the streets and dropped them out of airplanes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what happened there. Or in Brazil, that's what happened. Or in Central America, we saw that. And this is not Nazi Germany. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the United States of America. And I don't care who's in office. The one thing that's always held us together was the fact that we lived by a constitution, we adhered to due process, and we respected the democratic way of life. And I just feel like every day it's just a little bit more that we're losing of that.
And like the Hispanic voters who voted, particularly Hispanic males who are highly conservative and voted for getting rid of their brethren, well, then you have an order that basically rescinds the waiver that Joe Biden's administration had given to almost over 500,000 people who were in the country to not have to worry about this type of thing. He just rescinded that entire waiver. So there's 500,000 people of all ilks. So if you hated Venezuelans because you're in Nicaragua, whatever your beefs were, it's changed around. Now you're part of the victimhood too. And like I said, that's the slippery slope of what is next and who is next. And that's all this really boils down to.
Yeah. Well, this is not a time to be silent. I mean, this is a time for people to speak up, to be vocal, to go to protest, to write your members of Congress, whatever it takes. This is a time to do it. We'll be back in just a minute. We'd love to hear from you. 504-582-9422. Our producer wants us to talk Shador Sanders. We're going to come out of the break for a few minutes, talk a little sports, because that draft is only 2 weeks away from God's country, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Be back in a minute.
Back in a minute.
Sandra Nika Morris, host of Put Housing First. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, where we will discuss how housing affects every aspect of our lives and what's necessary, what's needed to guarantee housing for all. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock as we dig down deep onto the issues that affect all of us.
Hello, friend. Tavis Smiley here with a special announcement. You can catch my show at a new time, weekdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Same great topics, same great guests, same great conversations, just a little earlier in the day. It's Tavis Smiley, weekdays 1 to 4 p.m. only on WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about.
Trying to grow your business or increase traffic to your location? We can help. WBOK 1230 AM has a number of solutions that will meet your individual needs. Give one of our consultants a call today at 504-582-9420 or email us at info@wbok1230.com. And remember, an investment with WBOK is an investment in our community. Call today.
Hey, this is Steve Poston. Be sure to listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday evening at 5 p.m., bringing you the best Southern Soul barroom music with the Southern Soul Weekend Party Mix, hosted by me, of course. I'll be playing your favorite Southern Soul music by artists from all over the South, right here on WBOK 1230 AM or online at WBOK1230.com. The station you listen to longer. Listen to longer. Listen to longer.
WBOK online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
All right, we are back. And again, we'd love to hear from you tonight. 504-582-9422. We'll get back to some news here in just a minute, but let's take a little bit of a break tonight and talk a little sports. We just came off of, I think, a great NCAA basketball tournament.
Absolutely.
Just the Final Four.
The Final Four was fabulous.
Yeah, it really was.
Not good, fabulous. This was one of the best.
Saturdays
the
were
Saturday
terrific.
was great. Last night was a war. It was a heavyweight bout, as I always say, and a real fight, literally to the finish.
You know, you're a St. Aug guy. You know.
Well, no, I'm not.
Oh, you're not a St. Aug. I thought you were St. Aug. Okay.
No.
You know, there's a connect.
He is.
Yeah, okay. There's a St. Aug connection because two of the coaches for Houston were St. Aug coaches and players. So there was a little bit of a local connection and feel. And Calvin Sampson, who is Houston's coach, has been around for a long time. He recruits heavily in the New Orleans area. That's one of his
and one of his players, Francis, is from New Orleans, but he went to high school in Florida. At one of those powerhouse schools.
You know, during the game, because he was tremendous, by the way.
He played great.
What a tremendous athlete.
Great.
And I went and looked. I Googled him because I wanted to know what high school. He went to a school in Florida. But, he grew up in New Orleans, right?
Yeah. It's a boarding school. It's like IMG Academy.
Right.
He went there. No fault to him because it's a great place and he's got a good future.
He's got a wingspan
he's
incredible.
Huge.
He'll be playing at the next level.
But the rebounding was incredible with Houston. Houston plays a real gritty brand of basketball. I really like that.
They do. And you kind of felt you felt bad for the coach, first of all, because he's been at it for decades. And here's this young guy
always
from Florida,
knocking on the door.
Wins it the first time out.
Exactly.
And you felt bad, and I felt really bad for the guy who wanted to take the shot at the very end. It was a 3-pointer, would have either won the game or not. He went up, and the defender was going to block his shot, so he went back down, and you can't pick the ball up. It'd be traveling in that situation.
Right.
And you could see it was kind of a helpless, and you really, that's a play that guy's probably going to remember for the rest of his life. But
it's very few big games that end without at least an attempt, and that's going to haunt him.
It's going to haunt him. And
but they put up a good fight. I mean, as you said, hopefully Coach Sampson can get back again.
Yeah.
He seems like he's a great recruiter, and he always has a good team. He just, and he's been right there knocking on the door. Hopefully he can bust it down next time.
Well, I had mixed emotions. One of my dearest friends in life is a guy named Dwight Davis, who had about a 12-year NBA career with the Cavaliers and Houston graduate, and he was texting me all weekend from San Antonio.
Yeah.
and he was so excited to see the Cougs. I didn't realize Houston has never won the an NCAA. With was it
Phi Slamma Jam?
Yeah, and some of the great players over the years. Elvin Hayes,
Hakeem Olajuwon,
Hakeem,
the greatest
I mean,
ever.
it was hard to believe they had never won.
Clyde Drexler.
They've
had a great
incredible
team.
players.
Yeah.
But I also had a soft spot for the Gators because their coach. So I was cheering for Auburn. Bruce Pearl is a friend of mine. I know him.
Yeah.
And my son played in Israel in the basically it's called the Maccabiah, the Jewish Olympics in 2009.
Okay.
And Todd Golden played for Team USA in those games.
Yeah.
His coach was Bruce Pearl.
Oh, okay.
So we got to see him play and all of that.
That's
and
great.
Amazing thing to win he's 3 years in as a head coach and you're winning an NCAA tournament.
No, one thing I have to say, I picked Florida to win it all.
You did.
I felt bad because of some bad calls I think the refs made.
That's to give kudos to Cary Grant.
I felt bad because of some calls that changed the tenor of the game, but ultimately I did like Florida because Florida too has a gritty team. They play really hard. I like teams that play hard. I like teams that aren't just throwing up threes. These people are passing the ball down low. Guys are putting the ball in the basket so they can actually play and win.
Yeah.
And that was a real war because 65-63 game is whatever it is.
They only had the lead for like what?
1 minute.
1 minute. Of the whole game.
Right. It was 1 minute. And the most important minute. But that's what it was. But yeah, it was good. And the game they played the other night, Houston played against Duke, was just fabulous.
It was just I'm sure we got some Dukies listening in the audience.
Yeah,
but isn't it nice to see Duke go down? I mean, that's
hate it. Always hated it. Just to clarify one point, I didn't go to St. Aug. No problem with my St. Aug brothers. I love all of them, but I went to Alcee Fortier Senior High School, which doesn't even exist anymore because it became now the Willows.
The Willow.
But
Lusher and then the Willow.
Yes. So, that was the great school that I went to. Fortier Tarpon,
There you go.
We used to call it the Fort back in those days.
There you go. Well, from this point forward, since Cary predicted Florida to win the title, anybody that does sports betting, call into the show.
And I'll tell you
Cary
what to
Grant
do.
For
Right.
$50 per pick. We'll give you whatever it is you need. All right, so now we got to talk Saints for just a minute. There was a really good article the last few days by Jeff Duncan, who's a terrific writer.
Yes.
And he basically said, for all of us that were expecting big change in the offseason, there's no big change. It's a few Band-Aids on some of the positions, a couple new players, not high-profile players, but nothing new. So it really kind of leads from a draft standpoint, which, again, the draft is in 2 weeks from this Thursday.
Right.
The first round of the draft. It goes over 3 days. Where do the Saints go at number 9? Because they may have some options here. I think the first question is, do they go after a quarterback? And, we're talking Shedeur Sanders, but he's not the only quarterback. They've also liked this guy from Mississippi.
Yeah, Jason Dart,
which I think would be maybe a little high at 9.
Yeah.
Maybe you trade back a little bit if that's your choice. But obviously the big name across the country is Shedeur Sanders. And he had his workout at Colorado. Every team was there. I saw the photos of it. He's not exactly like this, but he's a little bit of a Drew Brees. He's not the strongest arm. He stays in the pocket. He's not a big runner. Okay, he's very accurate. Probably a little bit more athletic ability than Drew. But that may be what you're getting. And I think, the question is, as people have evaluated him, is does he have the athletic talent and the arm strength to be a number 9, 10 pick in an NFL draft?
Well, I'll say this. He could be any pick in the draft, and I'll get to our engineer in a minute, but he could be any pick in the draft. But I think personally, I don't think that the Saints, first off, I don't think that they should draft the quarterback. I think they need so many other things. I have been a huge advocate of solidifying your lines, either your defensive line or your offensive line. And personally, I think you should solidify your offensive line because I don't care who's back there, Joe Burrow, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. If it's a sieve like it's been and you can't run and you can't pass protect, you can't do anything. I like the big tackle from Texas, Williams or somebody like that. That's my personal preference, and I think that would work. I think a lot of the skill positions, they have people at those positions, and I think Kellen Moore can get a lot out of them. That's my take. And the real problem I have with Shedeur Sanders is since you don't have velocity on the ball, that is what cornerbacks in the NFL eat their lunch on when you can't throw the ball hard and fast. And that worries me a lot with a bad line. He's been sacked a lot in college, and I think that is problematic for me. I mean, I hope that they would go another route.
But he did have a great career, even with a bad offensive line.
I agree, but he was playing in the Big 12 as well. So
that's not the NFL.
If you talk about Jackson Dart and the way he played in the SEC against the SEC talent and the people beating him up, it's a whole lot different from the Big 12. That is my personal take on it. I don't disregard the guy. I really honestly think that the Giants are playing possum and they're going to pick him at 3. I really believe that.
That's the same thing I said to Mr. Arnie when he walked in. I said, I think the Giants might get him.
Yeah, I really believe that. I think that the fact that they have a few people in their quarterback room are just to kind of bring the guy along, that type of thing.
I mean, the
to
guy
develop. Brian Daboll's a great quarterback whisperer. He can do it. Kellen Moore could do it, but I think it really fits them a lot better.
I think you could teach him the velocity of throwing the ball.
You could.
Well, who's in the Giants quarterback room right now?
Jameis Winston. And Russell Wilson.
Oh, Russell Wilson. That's right.
Yeah. But Russell's at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Jameis is a good interim for, backup player or whatever. But I think they really need that. And with the receivers they have, I mean, they could, with a bunch of young guys coming up together. I think the Saints' real plan, and I think the reason why they didn't really do anything, they have so many people whose contracts and dead money roll off next year. I think they're just saying, if we can just survive this coming year, we'll have a cap space and can do anything we want. And there's a lot better draft prospects in the quarterback thing next year than there are this year.
The way I see it with Shedeur is that, okay, you want someone with a big arm that can hum that ball down the field, or you want someone with accuracy.
Accuracy is the
I'll
most
take accuracy
important thing.
over the big arm because Jameis Winston had the big arm, but he was a gunslinger and interceptions happened all the time.
No, and that was Drew Brees' great strength he was fascinatingly accurate. Even down the field, he could pinpoint, drop the ball in the bucket, as they say. And that was his greatest skill to me. It was his accuracy. He never missed.
I've been watching some of the games from 2009.
Oh, yeah?
Popping up on YouTube, and I just sit and watch them.
Yeah.
And to watch his accuracy, and it's like,
it's
Jesus
incredible.
Christ, this dude will put the ball in a spot that only the receiver could get.
Well, the beauty about what the Saints did during those years, they had a very good offensive line.
Yeah.
But they also did it so that their blocking pattern allowed Drew to step up in the middle.
Right.
Okay. And that was important because of his height.
Yes.
And he would drive people crazy with that 12-yard, down the middle to a tight end or a wide, Michael Thomas, for so many years.
Colston and Michael Thomas were the same guy.
Jeremy Shockey.
Yeah.
And
then when Jimmy Graham came along.
Here's how
you're exactly right.
I also think the Saints should probably not, pick a quarterback. And here's the reason. If they have, they're either going to have a really good year, meaning potentially playoffs, or a really bad year, okay?
Yeah.
If they have a really good year, the reality is Derek Carr is going to be here for a couple more years, okay?
You think a couple?
I think one more.
I think one.
Well, if they have a really good year, if they make the playoffs, I think you've got a quarterback that can lead you to the playoffs. If you have a really bad year, you're going to be drafting in the top 10 next year, where the quarterbacks may, in fact, be much deeper, much better.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to have but I think, yes, offensive line, defensive line. I told you before we came on air, I love this guy Warren from Penn State, tight end. He reminds me so much of just that kind of one of your old-fashioned tight ends that his catches after, his yards after catch are incredible. Yeah. And he'd be right around that pick. probably available. I don't know if the Saints could afford a tight end when they have these other needs.
I think, and that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I think that you get somebody like Williams or somebody to play tackle, and it's happened in Philadelphia. That's why I'm saying Kellen Moore might do this. They took a tackle and made him a guard, and we really have bad guard play. If you took Penning and moved Penning into guard, who is huge and who can run
He's
block.
nasty.
He's nasty. He can be a guard. He could be a great guard, but not a great tackle. But if you take him and move him in and put a guy who could really play tackle, that side of the line is just solid as it comes. And the other thing is you got to protect these guys' health. I actually saw him during the Super Bowl. I saw Eric McCoy, and Eric McCoy told me he's ready to go. It's like that. The stats when Eric McCoy was in versus when he's not in, no matter who's the quarterback, are phenomenologically.
Yeah, we saw what happened when he went down in the Philadelphia game.
They were going to win that game. I mean, that game changed because that Carter became a menace. It changed. That's true. Because of him. That's true. If you keep those guys healthy, and that guy's a great veteran, and get him some backup, I'm telling you, Arnie, I would do what you said in a way. I think about trading back a little bit, get some more draft capital, get some more big guys on both sides of the line, and go from there. I think Kellen Moore and the staff that he's putting together can do a great job. And I really believe
I'm going to tell you, there's a quarterback that, I'm sure there's a lot of mixed reaction on him because of the season. He had a very up and down season last year, which is Milroe from Alabama.
Yeah.
That guy, first of all, he has Jaden Daniels' running speed ability to break away. He's got a pretty good arm. I mean, he was fairly inaccurate, and Alabama season this year was very disappointing. It was up and down. But if you could get a guy like that in the second round, maybe even third round, he could drop to. Now that would be worth a draft pick.
I think what you're saying, that's why I said that about draft capital. But I think that what's going to happen is somebody is going to get a good second-round quarterback who's going to become a starting quarterback. Now, and I think that's what you're saying, and I think there'll be a lot of guys in that point. I really believe
the guy from Louisville, if you've watched him, he's built like a brick. He's like 6'4", 230.
Yeah.
Has all the NFL physical stats to him.
Right.
A guy like that could be a player.
I think there's some people to develop, and I still believe, and I'll never not say this, but I really like Spencer Rattler, and I think Rattler
that's what I was getting ready to say.
I think Rattler under this regime will be a different guy.
That's why I wanted to say is, why are we talking about drafting quarterbacks so much when we have Spencer Rattler?
Right.
No, I mean,
and
honestly, the game last year that showed what he can do. He didn't have the protection, but the Redskins game, I mean, the Commanders, I'm sorry. The Commanders game, we almost won the game. Yeah. He brought us back. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. He just needs to rein it. His short pass, he throws too hard for that. He needs to rein it in, and I think these coaches can coach him up.
Yeah, we needed somebody who could do some offensive coaching, and we need somebody who Kellen Moore everywhere he's been. I mean, Dak Prescott was okay when Kellen Moore got a hold of him. Dak Prescott became great when he went to Philadelphia. I mean, Jalen Hurts was good, but he made him a Super Bowl champion.
Yes,
so I'm and he did what you said. He makes the game where I'm going to use your skills and I'm going to tone it down a little bit, like not make you have to do all this fantastic stuff to win. But I like the guy. I mean, I think he's a good backup.
I'm a Rattler fan.
I got to be honest. I am. I haven't seen enough of him to say that he'd be a number one NFL starter. Maybe he will. Maybe under new coaching, guidance, tutelage, maybe he'll improve. But I saw him and Hainer last year. They look like quarterbacks that are not going to win games in the NFL.
He was a rookie. Hainer is a third-year QB. He should have had something more than.
Well, I think he's done.
I think he's done too.
I think he's done. And it'll be interesting.
I think the other thing I gotta say is too. Look, Carr is been vilified, all kinds of stuff. But I mean, I think Carr is a good quarterback, good enough to win with. I think Carr's problem is, he's erratic, and I think that he didn't take care of himself. He cost us games because he got himself injured and got jumping over the pile.
game in the Giants. Why are you
there
jumping
was no
over?
need to do
Dude,
that.
just go out of bounds.
So if Moore is the person I think he is, and his offensive coordinator Nussmeier are the people I think they are, they can take a person like that and say, look, if you do what we say, we can actually win some games.
You know what's amazing is that Philadelphia game last year literally turned around the season for both teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know how ugly Philly fans can
they
be.
were.
If the
Philly
Saints
was ugly
win
for the
that
first few games.
And the Eagles
Philly
go
loses.
back home, 1-3
Yeah,
or something like that?
they would.
And the Saints, they would have been
3-0.
3-0.
Yeah.
It would have changed
Absolutely.
everything.
I agree.
Everything.
I totally agree. They didn't want, because remember, the coach was on the hot seat for most of the season until they turned around in the middle of the year, and all of a sudden he was like, then he wins the Super Bowl. It's like, they wanted him out of there.
But hey, at least it got DA out of there. Because if DA would have had a winning season, we would still be dealing with Dennis Allen.
Yeah. By the way, we're talking a little sports. What an odd story involving Tulane and their quarterback, this new quarterback, Finley.
The truck thing?
This guy.
Yeah, he's been like arrested now, okay? Or he's been at least put on probation by the team. He's a 6-year guy. He's played everywhere. He played at LSU and
he's
played. I'm not sure if he's the right fit anyway, but he bought a car, right? And it was
a very strange story.
It was it was stolen.
Yeah,
and
it's a very strange story.
He came home and they were tracking it, and they found out he was in possession, so they arrested him. And of course, the Tulane program had suspend him because of that. But I think now, look. I don't know if it was innocent or not. That'll come out in court proceedings. But very odd situation. And Tulane, needs him. I mean, they have a couple of the quarterbacks on their roster, but they're very raw. I mean, they lost a really good quarterback last year who went to Duke and is getting paid $8 million in NIL money. But that was a really bizarre story.
I don't know if this guy's going to ever be anything. He's transferred to about 3 or 4 schools now. He's to me the bad example of the transfer portal and all of that. And I mean, he hasn't done much anywhere that he's been either, which is not good. I mean, I think he has a lot of raw talent. He reminds me so much of Ryan Perrilloux, who was around here and who had all the potential in the world and ended up nowhere.
Yeah.
So I see kind of the same thing.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but when the basketball season ends, it's like a desert sports-wise, okay? I mean, I love baseball. I watch my Cubs every night.
We have the UFL.
You know what? I can't get into spring football. I've watched all these leagues come and go, and I know the quality probably is pretty good. But on a Sunday, I can't sit home in front of a TV watching the Memphis Showboats. Okay,
the Showboats. Oh my goodness,
aren't they? I think they exist again.
I'm not sure if the Showboats are still in it. I don't know if they went to this league because I know they got rid of our breakers, which I was upset about.
I don't know. The
NBA playoffs are about to start, we got to do that.
They are about to start.
We have to do that.
Yeah, that'll be
I'm saying what you said because there's nothing else to do.
Look, we're a football city.
We're a football city.
I admit we're 4 months away from the start of the college season. 2 weeks from the draft. The OTA starts soon after that. Well, rookies come in to New Orleans right after the draft. So, the good news is that football kind of never ends. You got free agency, you got the draft, and we'll know the Saints' schedule. Will come out in a few weeks. That's always fun to know when they're going to, on the road and who's coming here. Those are always fun.
And
days.
I have to pick my away game, and hopefully it will be better than mine.
Who do they play? Who do they play on the road this year? Because that they know.
I haven't looked at it, but I have to pick I'd go to at least one away game every year.
Where'd you go last year?
I was going to go to Green Bay, but everything fell apart.
I'm going to tell you what, the
season fell apart.
Well, the Saints-Packer game last year was a disaster for the Saints.
Yes.
I mean, they had nobody left at that point. In Christmas Eve, 20,
everything about
below.
Everything about it fell
But
apart.
I was at the game the year before where the Saints had a 3-touchdown lead going into the fourth quarter.
And they messed that up.
And Carr got hurt.
Yes.
And the Packers won that game. That also was a turning point in that season for both teams.
Yes. But and the reason and the thing about it is I like doing that because I like, first off, I'm a fan in the sense of the fan word. I'm a fanatic, so I like going with my colors, and I like really messing with the other fans, like they do when they come here.
You got to go to Chicago then, because they will love to mess with you. Those are the worst fans in the country.
I've seen them here; they're terrible.
They are ugly as can be. All right, we will be back. We're gonna shift for the last 10 minutes and talk Carey's expertise. Fiscal policy of the city of New Orleans. We'll be back in just a minute.
New Orleans, are you ready? A fresh voice in the city is here, bringing you the beats, the culture, and the stories that matter. From local music and food to real talk on what's happening in the streets, we've got you covered. Stay tapped in. Follow us on all platforms at WBOK 1230 for the latest updates and exclusive content. Your city, your culture, your news. Don't just hear about it, be about it. Follow us at WBOK 1230 now.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
Come on, children. Sunday Gospel. I am Leo Jackson asking you to tune in every Sunday, 12 noon till 2 p.m. Feel the power of the Holy Spirit moving. Make you want to clap your hands, shout, cry out, glory, hallelujah. Don't miss this program, Sunday Gospel, 12 noon until 2 p.m. every Sunday. Station you listen to all day long.
Come on, let's have a good time. Come on, let's have a good time.
I'm Wendell Pierce. Join me for Profiles. It's an intimate and informative conversation with some of the most iconic personalities of our time. That's Profiles with Wendell Pierce. The last Friday of every month at noon and Saturdays at 11 a.m. on WBOK 1230, what New Orleans is talking about. From the East Bank to the West Bank, WBOK is what New Orleans is talking about. WBOK.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
All right, we are back. We were looking at the schedule for this year for the Saints. Their home schedule, again, from year to year to year, it all changes. But home schedule, not so bad. I mean, they got the 3 division opponents, Arizona and then San Francisco, and then New England, the Jets, and the Giants. Those are 3 relatively, based upon this past year, not so bad. On the road, they got, they play Atlanta, Carolina, Tampa. Tough road schedule. They go to Buffalo. They go to Chicago. They go to the L.A. Rams. They go to the Dolphins, Seahawks, and Tennessee. That's a pretty difficult road schedule.
But a lot of those teams are rebuilding in a way, so they might not be as bad as it sounds.
I want to go to Buffalo, man. Maybe October.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. September.
Don't go when they ask you to shovel the snow out of your own seat.
Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah. All right, Carey. Just as we end the show tonight, this story from BGR kind of came out late last week, and it issued a report talking about the city's finances, and I don't think anybody really had an idea of maybe how bad the finances were. This started really, as you and I know, from this settlement of the school board issue. Yeah. And the city came out and said, well, we can't honor the $90 million agreement. We're in bad shape financially.
Right.
And so BGR issued a report really going into some depth about a really big budget hole for the NOPD, $42 million in the hole. Reserve funds that are less than what are suggested. Really no policy behind how you spend reserve funds. I mean, a whole slew of not enough money cash-wise to maybe do some of the road work that we got federal money for.
Yeah, that's definitely that problem.
So What do you? I mean, you were directly in this area. What do you think?
First off, I'll say that BGR has done several reports like this over the years. And over the span that I was there, a lot of the same things come up all the time about fiscal planning and the measure of how much reserve you have and those type of things. And some of those things are still the same and are very difficult to do. In some ways, not the fiscal planning, but the having 10%, 17% of your general fund be in the reserve, that's a lot of money. So it becomes hundreds of millions of dollars. And we live in a city where our citizens are very much used to using the funds that are available for things they need, like you said, like street repairs. So it's going to be difficult to always hold a big reserve. But the other thing about it is some of the numbers are frightening, but some of the numbers make no sense to me as a longtime budget person. The police department showed a positive number until late into last year, and then all of a sudden they said they had a $40 million whatever hole, mainly based on overtime expenses. Now, first off, overtime expenses that high are quite a bit. I mean, that's a lot of money. But the other part of it is I think some of it has to do with federal reimbursement and that type of thing. And it wasn't clear because one thing I read was from the budget people from the city. They said that they did not budget for overtime in the department, which we never not budgeted for overtime. So I don't really understand some of the numbers.
Yeah.
And as I told you, Arnie, the thing about the reserves is it's very unclear what reserves we have, what belongs to what, how much the total reserve really is, because it hasn't been publicized. And it's been very non-transparent.
And it really ballooned because of all the
the ARPA funds made it into, because when you received all these federal funds that were for operations, it came into the general fund. It made it $344 million, which is over what you want to have as a reserve. But they've used a lot of that for different things over the years. So it's coming down. But, even that hasn't been clear about what's been used, what's been pledged, what's been, the council's passed several measures that come out of the general fund to different amounts for housing, the housing fund that was just created and some of those type of things. And, are those things set aside? Are those things funded? Are those things just paper? So what I'm saying to you is all this did for me was make me wonder about what is the real financial picture. And I think that what they make clear in their report is they don't have a clear picture.
Well, one thing that doesn't help is when you have different people within the administration saying different things.
Yes.
I mean, the chief administrative officer has said, we really don't have these major problems.
Right.
And then you have the revenue officer saying, no, we do. I mean, that doesn't give anybody any confidence. Here's what I'd like. And again, I mean, the one thing you and I both know, when you talk strategic structural budgeting, you cannot plug in one-time money for reoccurring expenses.
Not. Yes.
I mean, that'll kill you. I mean, the state had a problem with that a decade ago. You can't do that in anybody. You can't do it. It's like doing it in your household budget.
Well, the thing about
it doesn't work.
Yeah, the thing about it, Arnie, is what you want to do is you want to plug in one-time revenues with one-time expenses.
Exactly.
I mean, you literally want to say, this is for this specific reason. We know this will not be a thing next year, but we don't need this to be a thing next year. That type of thing.
I mean, for example, paying down, debt.
Some debt, right.
Debt, for example, reduces the amount of money going out the door because you've either lowered the interest rate or you've paid it off.
Right.
Things like that make a lot of. Here's what I'd like to see, Carey, because look, BGR is a very respected organization.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know there are people that sometimes throw arrows at them, but they do a good job, and they really do try to be very neutral and look at things strictly on objective facts.
Sure.
With a new mayor coming in, with a new council coming in, it is really important. I think in the next 60 days here, there needs to be a comprehensive series of meetings, maybe over a few days, to go through this issue in detail and have BGR at the table, along with the city council, along with the administrators from the administration, and go through point by point from budget to reserve fund to 5-year budgeting, because you want the new leaders coming in to come in with a fresh start. And also a playing field that is truthful. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with this a year and two from now.
What I would suggest is that since the council runs the city's audit, and the auditors have to have access to all of the books, then that's a starting point for the council people. Particularly, there's 2 council people at least running for mayor, and other council members running for other things and re-election. They need to, what you said is absolutely true, have an open and honest meeting. Start with your auditors and have your auditors go in and say, this is what we see in these various accounts. And it may be the minutia that the public doesn't want to hear, but it's very important. I would say this today, if you have an issue that's like this facing you and you're running for mayor, I would not want to walk into this issue, because this would mean huge cuts.
Exactly. I mean, all of the policies and vision and everything could go out the door if you're walking in with a $100 million deficit for the city. So, look, I think that would be something the public would appreciate. I think it would give a lot of confidence in our elected leaders. Yes. And if there is a problem, it's important for our candidates
to know,
to talk about how they're going to overcome this.
Absolutely.
And how they're going to deal with this kind of deficiency.
Absolutely, because it will fashion whatever happens in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Carey. It's been a great show.
It's been a great night.
We will be back tomorrow. I will tell you tomorrow, Carey, I want to talk about the 9th Ward Stadium, because Thursday night we have a major meeting in the 9th Ward, and a lot of us are very proud of this project. We're looking forward to it. So we'll spend a little time talking about the history and also where we are tomorrow night.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
All right,
it's
everybody.
Been a great night.
Have a great night, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. at our normal time.
Good night, everybody.